The registration took 4 hours. I kid you not, 4 hours. We arrived at, there were a lot of things that were done. So first, we can maybe read it online because it's a lot. He's like, no, he has to tell us everything. With an office lady, then with the nurses, then with the doctor, then with an anesthesiologist, and then I was sent home. I want to tell you about hospital registration because I think it's very interesting how it works in Germany. First of all, you need to choose a hospital where you want to give birth. Maybe it's a good idea to ask your friends who gave birth in your area, or maybe you can think and ask Hebamme or do your research. And then every hospital offers something called Infoabend. Some of them even offer it in English. And at this Infoabend, there will be a presentation. You can ask your questions and there will be a small hospital tour. In my case, we decided to go to Infoabend of one hospital, the one that we chose, and it's the one that was the closest to our home. And this Infoabend, I think I was around 28 weeks pregnant, and I was definitely the biggest girl there, so I was the most advanced in my pregnancy, so it's probably a good idea to go before week 28. I also recommend to go to more than one Infoabend at one hospital, because it can happen that on the day of giving birth, you go to the hospital that you chose and you register that, and then you have to go somewhere else because they don't have space. Happened to me. And then I had to go to a hospital I had no idea about. So basically they asked, which hospital do you want to go to? And I had no idea what hospitals are there. So they just drove me to a random one, which turned out to be really good, but I wish I could have chosen and actually I knew where I'm going. Go to more than one Infoabend and start going to Infoabends early in the pregnancy. But this is how it went. Infoabend was about 1.5 hours long. It was in German. There were around 30 other people expecting a baby. There was a short presentation with PowerPoint, and they were telling us some basic information about the hospital. Then you could ask a question. I actually made a list of questions I made a list of other questions that other people asked and questions that I wish I asked. Basically, you ask about delivery, what are the practices of the hospital. Each hospital tends to be a little bit different, so it's actually good to know. Then after this presentation, they gave us a hospital tour. They showed us C-section operating room, they showed us delivery rooms, they showed us where you stay with the baby after the delivery, they showed us the kitchen and all the kind of small things that you might be interested in. And in that presentation and on the Infoabend, they told us that you should come to the hospital to register in week 34. So they gave us an email address that you need to contact, and then you can register. We waited a few days to think if we want to register this hospital. We decided that we want to, and we sent an email to this email address we were given, and we said, hello, I'm in week 29 of pregnancy. I would like to give birth in this hospital. How can I register? And they called me directly a day after. They asked me again which week I am in, and they scheduled a visit for week 34. I went there with my partner, and I'm really glad I did because the registration took 4 hours. I kid you not, 4 hours. We arrived at 9:30 and we left at like 1:30, which I thought was a bit excessive, but there were a lot of things that were done. So first of all, we went to get a number. So we went to like info at the hospital to get a number, then kind of like this device. Sometimes you get it at the restaurants that when it's your turn, it starts beeping. This is the kind of thing I got. Not really a number, but this device. And then when it started beeping, they asked us to go to a room, and it was an office. And the woman working there asked me most basic questions like my address, if we are married, where I was born, my ID number, basic information about me. And then when we finished, we were sent to a room with nurses. There were 3 nurses who wanted to pre-register me. They gave me a lot of information. They gave me, I think, maybe 4 or 5 pages A4 with questions. And the questions were, of course, basic information about me, my age, if it's my first pregnancy. Then ask me about medication, what kind of medication I take. So I informed them about all the nausea medication, about just things that I was taking during the pregnancy. They ask if I have some diseases, if anyone in my family has diseases, if the father has any diseases. They also ask if my blood, if I have a wound, if it heals quickly or not. And then after that, one of the nurses said that we need to go to another room to do to basically to swipe my ass. And I asked, what is it for? And I can't remember the name of this thing they were checking for, but she explained that sometimes you get this hospital bacteria, that it's very often seen in the hospital. She said that she probably has it. And this means, if I have it, it means that I will be taken care of differently during labor. And I will be put in a room with people who also have it. And if I don't have it, I will be put in the room with women who don't have it. I was not prepared. That's why I'm laughing, not because of what it is. And I just thought I'm gonna go sign some papers, but then I went back to the room. They told me to finish the other papers. So while I was filling out the papers, we were told to wait outside, and then we were asked by a doctor to follow him. And I had a scan. So basically, I had an ultrasound. So I had a scan. He said that my baby is upside down, also upside down from what it should be, so not upside down. So the legs are down and the head is up. He also confirmed that I have this uterus with a wall, heart-shaped uterus. I think it's called like bicornate uterus. So they will not try to move the baby around because it's unsafe. They will not try to deliver the baby. And he told me that there isn't a hospital that would try. And they suggest that I have a C-section, which I already was prepared for because my gynecologist said exactly the same. My gynecologist and I were waiting for the baby to turn. We thought maybe if the baby is small and the uterus is bigger, then the baby has the place to turn, even though there is a wall. But then the baby was getting bigger and bigger, and there was no chance. So then we scheduled a C-section. The doctor told us all, and I'm telling you, all side effects of C-section and what we can expect. And when he was like halfway through, we asked if like we can maybe read it online because it's a lot. He's like, no, he has to tell us everything. So we were sitting there and listening about how I may die, or that was one of the worst. There were also some very mild side effects, but he had to go through all of them with us. And he gave us some dates that we can choose from for the delivery, for C-section. So the dates he gave us were from Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sunday, they don't deliver babies. And it was, I think, the 1 week, so from my due date. So let's say, I don't know, my due date was on the 1st, let's say. So that 1 entire week before was the time that I could choose my C-section. Once we chose, we got a little paper saying that the C-section is at 7:30 and that I shouldn't eat 6 hours before. I can drink, I should not eat anything. We were sent outside again, and then we had to wait for anesthesiologist. Then we were asked by anesthesiologist to come into her room, and she explained to us how epidural works, all the side effects, how it can feel, how it's performed. I had to fill out some documents for epidural, and then we were sent home. And that was the whole registration. And it's funny because that was in week 34 plus something. I gave birth few days later, and they didn't take me in this hospital. I had to go to another hospital. That's why I say it's important to go to an Infoabend at many hospitals and at least have an idea which hospital you like, which you don't, because if they reject you at your first choice, it's really, really to have a second choice and not go to a hospital you have no idea about, which is what happened to me. Okay, I hope my experience can help you a little bit. Yeah, and good luck.